Bally Sports is in a hot mess and it is going to affect a lot of baseball and all of the local sports teams. We're going to talk about what it means for the Texas Rangers and what the heck is even going on with this network. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, founder and host for all 4 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Subscribe on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment any single thing below. Before we get into today's show about Bally Sports Southwest, Bally Sports as a whole, Sinclair, that whole nonsense. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Now, what the heck is going on with the Bally Sports networks? Well, in early December, the board of Diamond Sports Group, that is what owns the Bally Sports networks, they voted to block their joint venture parent company, Sinclair Broadcasting, from day-to-day operations with the regional sports networks. Now, that doesn't sound like a whole big deal, but it really is a big deal. They are in a massive financial, and more and more stuff has been coming out about this as it's been going on. It's going to affect the Rangers. It's going to really affect the Cardinals, and we're going to get into why. There's been a lot of really great reporting from the Dallas Morning News. Callie Kaplan has written pretty extensively about this. She also just wrote quite a bit, mostly how it's affecting the Mavericks, but it also affects the Rangers as well, because the Rangers have a 10% equity stake in Bally Sports Southwest, so they have a lot of stake in how all of this is shaking out. Now, Diamond Sports Group is approaching a potential $8.6 billion debt restructuring in bankruptcy court, according to Bloomberg. Diamond and Sinclair both owe combined $2 billion in broadcast rights fees this year. So, yeah, this is a big deal, and it's not just affecting the Rangers, it's affecting a lot of teams. They have 19 regional sports networks, and they have 15 teams, Major League Baseball teams. They have plenty of other broadcast teams, but 15 Major League Baseball teams, including the Rangers, Royals, Cardinals, Braves, Padres, Angels, Reds, Guardians, Brewers, Tigers, Marlins, Rays, Twins, Diamondbacks, and Cubs. Cubs are the interesting one because they broadcast on Marquee Sports, or at least they used to. I don't know if they've rebranded to Bally Sports Chicago or what have you, but that was also part of the deal. The rest of these are on some kind of Bally network, so if you were streaming them on MLB TV, you can kind of see the little Bally logo that is in there. But it's going to affect the Cardinals most because they have the highest TV ratings of all of these teams. They might even have the highest TV ratings in all of Major League Baseball. Obviously, they have very, very passionate fans that watch a lot of the games that are broadcast, and so that's why it's going to affect them a little bit more than the Rangers. I don't think the Rangers will be among the top teams affected. They do have one of the widest market because Rangers games are broadcast freaking everywhere. Bally Sports Southwest, which is the hub for the Rangers. I used to work there for a long time. I interned with them out of college, starting in 2017, then worked as a high school football researcher in the fall of 2017. Then in January of that year, started as a social media guy for them, and that lasted until about June-ish of 2020. So I work with them for a long time. I know a lot of people there. There's a lot of really, really great people who work there. And so I knew quite a bit of what was going on there at the time. But this is going to be a big deal. And it's been kind of a mess since the Rangers were acquired, since all these networks were acquired by Bally. They used to be Fox Sports Southwest. They were owned by the Fox Corporation for many years. And then they were bought in a huge deal by Disney, who bought a lot of TV products, including the regional sports networks. The only TV product really they bought basically Fox. They bought FX. They bought just so many things that all were under the Fox Corporation. One of the few things that Fox couldn't sell of their TV rights were Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2. Nobody wanted to touch those. They were just a worse version of ESPN, and kind of everybody knew that. And Disney already owned ESPN, so it didn't really have a need for them. But when Disney bought all those regional sports networks, it was going to be too much of a monopoly of them having, ESPN and all of its subsidiaries, and then having all of these regional sports networks, because there are so many freaking teams under the Bally umbrella. So they had to sell them off to somebody else. The sale happened in 2017. That's when Disney acquired 21st Century Fox. They bought it for $52.4 billion, and they, kind of spun it off and branded into a partnership with like Hulu and ESPN and all of that stuff that they're really, really getting into. But they couldn't hold on to these broadcast companies, these regional sports networks. So they sold them off to Sinclair Broadcasting, which if you don't know a lot about Sinclair, there was a really, really good piece, that episode of TV that John Oliver did on Sinclair Broadcasting, that kind of exposed some of their tendencies and tactics and things that I didn't necessarily love working for them under that umbrella for the little bit of time that I was there. But go watch that. It is very, very informative. Basically, they own a lot of TV local news stations across the country, like a really, really big portion. And Bally, the company that came in with them, part of the deal was they wanted some publicity for their name. That's why they rebranded to Bally. Bally is associated with the casinos, the entertainment studios, and they wanted kind of a content partner, basically, to put their name. They wanted a partner with a brand who wants more exposure, which was Bally. They are in the sports betting industry, basically, and they wanted to kind of put a bigger focus on that. And it felt kind of weird at the time, because it's like, okay, Sinclair makes sense, but this Bally thing, I've never heard of Bally before this, and obviously that's why they wanted to put their name on this, get their name out there. But it didn't seem like they had a very thought through plan when they did this. And it's kind of falling apart, and it's been a hot mess ever since the takeover. Not that it wasn't a little bit of a hot mess before. Coming up, we're going to get into my experience there a little bit, what ramifications this is going to have on the Rangers and teams in general. But first, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. We are really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On, because they are the #1 sports book in America, FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that is even better. They have some great features, making betting on sports fun and easy. This year, the only app for you need at your Super Bowl party is FanDuel. It is, again, America's #1 sports book. They let you bet on everything from the money line to point spread to who will score a touchdown. If you want to bet on my boy Patrick Mahomes throwing a whole bunch of touchdowns, I feel like that's a pretty safe bet. Best of all, you can get your paid. There we go. You can get your paid winnings instantly. So join FanDuel today. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to claim your no sweat bet on the Super Bowl. No sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That is FanDuel.com/lockedon. Download the FanDuel app today. You can bet on Super Bowl 57 with a no sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports partner of the NFL. Now, like I said, I worked at this company for a long time, so I know a lot of people and how it works. And, for those of you who either love or don't love the Rangers broadcast, the Rangers have a lot of say in their broadcast rights, as do most major league teams, but the Rangers especially, because like I said, they have 10% equity in Bally Sports Southwest. I don't know if the Mavs or Stars have some equity in Southwest, but it is a big operation. Their focus is they have 4 NBA teams they have out of their hub in Irving. They have the Mavericks, they have the Oklahoma City Thunder, they have the Spurs, and they also have the New Orleans Pelicans. They have the Rangers broadcast rights, they have the Dallas Stars broadcast rights, and they're also pretty big into high school football. If you flip on in any Friday in the fall, they've got a lot of Texas high school football coverage. But the Rangers broadcast goes out to, I believe, 4 states. It's Texas, Oklahoma, parts of New Mexico, parts of Arkansas, parts of Louisiana. So 5 states that the Rangers broadcast goes out to. It's a large swath, and there is no other MLB team that is also through Bally Sports Southwest. And unlike if you're in other parts of Texas, if you have Bally Sports Southwest in, like, say, in San Antonio, you're going to get Spurs games during the the winter. Or if you're in Houston, I think you might also get Spurs games. Kind of different based on where you are. But with Bally Sports Southwest in the summer, it's all Rangers games everywhere throughout all of Texas. They are not competing with the Astros. The Astros are through AT&T Sportsnet, as I believe what it's called, which is just Houston, and I think maybe one other market. So the other regional sports networks, there's not some other big conglomerate. It's kind of a bunch of little one-off things. There are some NBC Sports affiliates in the Bay Area and Philadelphia, and I think there's also one in Chicago that broadcasts the at least the White Sox games. I'm not sure about the Blackhawks or the Bulls games. I think they might also be through that, but I'm not entirely sure. But the Bally is the big elephant in the room, and one of the big problems with this whole service, and it's just been taken off so many different. It's so hard to get Bally Sports Southwest in Dallas. It is so hard for anyone. There are only 8 different ways that you can get Bally Sports, 8 different providers, I should say, that have Bally Sports Southwest in Dallas. They are Xfinity, Spectrum, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, DirecTV Stream, Cox, Optimum, and Xstream, and Wow! Exclamation mark in all caps. I haven't heard of any of those last 3 products at all. So, I mean, I'm sure they're available somewhere and what have you. Fubo TV announced that they are going to put Bally Sports Southwest back, all the Bally regional sports networks back on their networks, but they haven't said when that's going to happen. So your only streaming option is DirecTV Stream, and 3 of the rest of these 5 networks or TV providers that I've actually heard of are all owned by the same company. They're all owned by AT&T. DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, DirecTV Stream, all of those are owned by AT&T. So really, there's not a whole lot of choices. And if you want to stream, it's literally just DirecTV Stream, or they have a $20 a month plan that you can stream some of your games, but it's not the Rangers. I think they have Mavs on there, but it's $20 a month just for streaming those local games. They're also working on some options to kind of to either buy one-off games or just buy the last couple minutes, which I think is just a hot mess. But it kind of all goes down to, it didn't seem like Bally had a real plan for what they were actually going to do with this product once they bought it. It's just like, cool, let's get this thing. The only concrete things that they have done that I've noticed, besides that are outwardly noticeable, is they have the Rally with Bally, which is their daily, weekly, whatever show. I think it's daily, 5 days a week, where they talk about betting. It's all betting line focused. It is on all of their regional networks, and it is very, very money line focused. They promote that freaking everywhere. It's just, hey, the Rally with Bally, on every pre and post game show they have to mention it. It seems like even during the broadcast they will mention it as well. It is a very, very heavy focus for them because they're wanting people to go bet at Bally casinos, or they have a Bally betting app. I don't even know what they're actually promoting. I think they're just kind of promoting sports betting in general, which again is okay, they're putting a decent amount of money. They also own the rights to Stadium, which is a confusing platform that Shams Charania is on, and also there are sometimes random other sporting events on there, like some high school football games, some random D2 college games, maybe some FCS games. But it's kind of a confusing, but it's also free, so it's all ad revenue based. And they also bought the Tennis Channel, which okay, what's going on there? Is there a lot of action on the Tennis Channel? Maybe there is a lot of money to be made in that, but it's just kind of always seemed like a haphazard, confusing purchase from the time they did it. These regional sports networks, they make a lot of money, but there's a lot of problems with them, and there's a lot of problems, especially in the age of streaming. There are a lot of people who are cord cutting, and it seems like a lot of experts are saying that Bally Sports Southwest is not going to come back to all of the major TV providers. It seems like it's hit that point of no return. both sides have been, especially Sinclair has been very intransigent about upping their rights of what it costs to carry their network for these TV stations, for these TV providers. And so it is making it more difficult and less profitable for these other stations to carry Bally Sports, so they just haven't. And Bally has not been willing to come off, and they said, oh, no, you're not going to lose subscribers. It's fine. But, I mean, we all know live sports is one of the few things that is keeping people from cord cutting. If I didn't work in sports, then I don't know if I'd still have live TV. That's literally the only thing that I watch on live TV is sports. I watch a lot of it, but like if it weren't for that, I mean, I'm not watching very much else. Everything else can be pretty much had on streaming. A lot of these streaming companies are just kind of in their own heads about how much money they would be making, and because they're not all just making just the most insane amounts of money like Netflix was in its most prominent days, and Netflix is getting into its own thing of getting ahead of itself and getting caught up in the greed and starting to run itself like one of those cable companies that is kind of floundering at this point. And it's just kind of interesting to see. But coming up, we're going to look at a move that Major League Baseball did that could hopefully benefit everybody who likes baseball and get their actual product out to more people. But first, this episode is brought to you by Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all the fat and calories, you have got to try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays. I know my goal is to eat a little bit healthier this year. We're in February. Maybe you have, quit on some of your New Year's resolutions, but maybe it's time to get back into it. Just have something a little bit healthy for you, and also don't compromise on taste. That's what Built Bars are for. What makes them so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. That is right, real chocolate. They come in all kinds of amazing flavors, and now you don't have to wait to get your box. For years we've been talking to you about getting your Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can go get them at your local Walmart or your local Sam's Club. That's right, head to your nearest Walmart today or your nearest Sam's Club. Go pick yourself up a box of whatever flavor you want. It's got to be, you got to try some Built Bars. You've just got to try some Built Bars. Go thank me later. Now, what is the move that Major League Baseball has done to hopefully fix some of this nonsense? I mean, half of Major League Baseball's teams are going to be wrapped up in all this nonsense. I think there's definitely going to be some financial ramifications, more so for the teams that are getting better ratings, but I think everybody's going to suffer at least a little bit, which you kind of wouldn't be able to tell from how much all of these teams spent in free agency. I mean, if you're looking at all of these different teams of the ones that are spending a bunch of money, a lot of them are Bally teams. I mean, the Rangers, the Angels, the Padres, all those teams are Bally teams that are spending a whole bunch of money. The Braves are, well, they're spending their money on wrapping up their guys for the long term. But they also, the Braves might be the only other market to be in more teams. More states, I should say, than the Rangers. I mean, the Rangers are in 5 states. It feels like everywhere in the South, everywhere south of the Mason-Dixon line, basically. If you're in the Southeast, has the Braves. Unless you're in Florida, then you have one of the 17 different Florida channels. But anyway, what Major League Baseball did is they hired Billy Chambers to basically oversee the regional sports networks. And I think that part of this, they also gave a promotion to someone internally to also kind of help oversee this as a new business liaison, I think was their title. But basically, Major League Baseball is tired of this nonsense, tired of Bally. I mean, it's been just such a mess from the beginning. All of these different TV providers making it harder to watch your favorite teams in an age where people are already like cord cutting like crazy, and they're cord cutting even more because of these Bally executives who are like, no, you're going to pay an absolute premium for our product, and maybe leaning on that a little bit too much and expecting these other TV broadcasters, whatever, companies to kind of fold under the pressure, and they didn't, and everyone is suffering as a result. And it seems like they might have to sell off these networks, go through another rebrand, which took absolutely forever. I mean, it took forever the first time because for the longest time, while I was there, actually for most of the time that I was there, I mean, Disney bought everybody, all the products in the middle of December in 2017. It wasn't until August 22nd, 2019, where the sale to Diamond Sports Group and Sinclair was officially announced. So it was basically 2 years in limbo, and it might end up being something like that as well. And I think one of the things that Diamond, blocking Sinclair from day-to-day operations is maybe Sinclair had the least handle on what was actually going on. Maybe Diamond was the one that had a better understanding of how these networks worked and what actually worked on these versus what didn't. And Sinclair was kind of trying to impose their will, just like, all right, we got this Bally thing, and so we want to get a bunch of eyes on it, so we're going to call it Bally. All the initials of our sports networks are going to be BS in whatever city or region, and that's going to be just fine. It's just going to be BS, and no one's going to care. So whatever. It's just such a confusing operation. Just the only good that I hope can come out of this, of hiring these, basically directors of regional sports networks. I believe that the guy, Billy Chambers, who MLB hired, has a lot of experience with Sinclair and Bally and these regional sports networks. So he kind of has an understanding and context of what the heck to do with all of this. But I think the best thing we can hope is to get the end of blackouts if across Major League Baseball with MLB TV, maybe with the other sports, but I'm really just focused on MLB TV. MLB, it is I believe the cheapest option, maybe ESPN Plus, I guess now with having basically all of the hockey games that are not nationally broadcast, having the right to stream all of those is kind of the best network or the cheapest one. I know that it's going to get a lot more expensive to watch every NFL game, and it's already very, very expensive to watch every NBA game with League Pass. I think it's like $300, and their whole system is a hot mess. And I'll give MLB a lot of credit, because MLB TV is probably, of my understanding, my experience, it is the best by far of the streaming every game for a certain sports league. Like, it is by far the best. It is the easiest. You can log into a bunch of different devices. You can watch multiple games. The blackouts are the only biggest problem, and thankfully, living in Dallas, there's not a lot of blackouts. If you are one of the people lucky enough to have Bally Sports Southwest, I think it's about $150, $200 for MLB TV. You can get all of the games for pretty much everywhere. The only team it's harder to get one of their games is you can't watch the Astros, which, again, why would I want to? So, I'm not really missing out much there, but pretty much every other game, and I get the absolute most out of MLB TV. I am watching all kinds of games at all hours. I have a 3-monitor setup. Got I've always got a bunch of games on everywhere, especially opening day. It's like every single one of those screens is completely full of a million Major League Baseball games, just drowning in Major League Baseball. It's always a great day, opening day, like one of my many holy days. The same even with spring training. There's a lot going on there. So, I mean, we are very, very lucky if you are in Dallas. But if you're somewhere else, like, I don't know, Chicago or somewhere in the Midwest, it is an absolute minefield trying to figure out what teams are blacked out and where. There are so many different regional sports networks that are overlapping that are nearly impossible to get, especially in LA. Getting Sportsnet LA, which is what I believe the Lakers are broadcast on. I know it is what the Dodgers games are broadcast on as well. Maybe the Los Angeles Kings games as well. But Bally has 2 different groups in around that area. They have San Diego. They also have the Angels and Bally Sports West. So I'm sure that's also very, very difficult to get for anyone in that area. Plus, in the Midwest, I mean, there are just so many different ones. Even in Ohio, there is Bally Sports Great Lakes, which broadcasts the Cleveland Guardians games, and there's Bally Sports Ohio, which broadcasts the Reds games. There's Bally Sports Midwest and Kansas City that are both in Missouri, but also somehow different. And also that is somehow really close to Chicago. So if you live in, around St. Louis or Chicago or Illinois or in Indiana, like all of those little areas, there's like 7 different teams that are all blacked out for you, even though in some cases you can't really get any of them. And I think that because Major League Baseball is mostly catered toward, like, most of Major League Baseball fans are an older audience, and so there aren't they aren't as concerned with streaming, and they aren't as concerned with young people being pissed about blackouts, then I think that is a big reason as to what has kind of led in the decline of the game. Major League Baseball is in a great place. There's a lot of teams that are, going for it. There's a lot of great teams, great players in the league that they don't do a great job of marketing, and I think these blackouts are a huge, huge restriction. If you could just spend, say you up the price to like $250 a year for MLB TV, but there are no blackouts, I think you would have a much, much higher rate of people buying those and actually watching the games. There are still advertisements. I don't think there's an ad-free version of MLB TV. I mean, sometimes you get ads, sometimes you just get like random highlights of old games or things that happened like 2 years ago, or they'll get on some spree of just like showing you everything that the Astros did. And I'm like, you should know I'm watching a Rangers game. Please don't show me anything nice that the Astros did. But I am really hoping that they can get this blackout issue sorted, because MLB TV is the superior product. It is better than ESPN Plus. It is better than NBA TV. I mean, the Red Zone's pretty good. It's pretty good, but it's just so insanely expensive, and it's probably going to get even more expensive this year now that the rights were just bought by YouTube. But, or at the very least, just like get this back on the streaming TV services, because it's gotten way harder. I mean, Bally Sports isn't on YouTube TV. It isn't on Hulu Plus Live TV, whatever the heck they're calling it, Plus XD Star, whatever it's freaking called now. It's not on that. It is just getting back to Fubo, which I believe is one of the other bigger live TVs. But I mean, even those, like when I moved into my apartment a couple years ago, I had a decision to make. My parents had DirecTV, and so that had like all the sports channels, and one of the few places that had Bally, which I was like, great, because I absolutely need this. But kind of figuring out, I only had Spectrum was my only choice at this place, which ended up being great because they are also one of the few that has Bally Sports in there. But I kind of looked at some of the YouTube TV and Hulu Live TV and how expensive that was, and it really wasn't that much cheaper than just getting a cable subscription, which is kind of insane. I thought the whole point of them was to be, a much, much cheaper option. I thought it was like going to be 20 to 30 to maybe $50 for live TV, but you want to add any of the actual sports channels besides just like regular ESPN, it ended up being like 70 to $75, and it wasn't that much more to just go ahead and get cable and, have it a little bit faster, not have the streaming delay, and just have a lot more channels, which is just a whole other mess. But I'm hoping that this Bally situation, it's finally run its course. I don't want it to seem like there are just everybody at Bally is just a hot mess, has no idea what they're doing. It seems like just a few people at the top didn't have a plan from the beginning, and we're kind of seeing that laid out now. There's a lot of great people who work at Bally Sports Southwest. A lot of my friends who still work there, either doing social or on the broadcast or behind the scenes or whatever. A lot of really, really great people. The Rangers have a really, really good broadcast, despite what. No, we're not going to go there. Even with Tom Greaves, I should say, even with Tom Grieve now retiring and on the broadcast a little bit less, which will be very sad this year to not have any tag games. Hopefully, Dave can bring up some random cookie talk just for fun. But anyway, that is basically what is going on with the Bally Sports networks. If you're looking for an overall picture, it's not going to disturb the day-to-day coverage. The Rangers games will still be broadcast. If you have the cable or direct TV stream or whatever, then you're still going to be able to see Rangers games. It might affect their payroll a little bit, but it doesn't seem like it's going to affect it that much because the Rangers are still being super, super aggressive about spending on these big-time free agents, and they're probably going to be just as aggressive next year in the next offseason, which should be a lot of fun. But that's a general overview. Thank you all so much for listening. Hope that clears up a little bit of what's going on and why it is important. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, like I said, you can subscribe on YouTube. The best way you can help grow the show is to comment any single thing below. Just can't speak words today, my goodness. But for your second listen, go check out Locked On MLB Prospects. Host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia. He is going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.